Halo semuanya, kembali lagi bersama Newbie Investor. Di video kali ini, kita akan belajar dari seorang investor legendaris yang menjadi partner Warren Buffett dalam menjalankan Berkshire Hathaway, yaitu Charlie Munger. Video ini adalah rangkuman interview Charlie Munger dengan Caltech, yaitu sebuah universitas di Amerika. Nah, Charlie Munger ini salah satu alumninya. Tapi sebelum itu, jangan lupa untuk like video ini, share ke teman kamu, dan subscribe ya. Terima kasih. Charles Thomas Munger, atau yang biasa disebut Charlie Munger, adalah partner dan vice chairman dari Berkshire Hathaway. Ia adalah seorang yang suka bertukar pikiran dengan Warren Buffett. Ia lahir dari 1 Januari 1924, jadi umurnya udah 96 tahun, Opa Charlie ini. Lahirnya di Omaha, Nebraska, United States. Net worth-nya saat ini mencapai 1,8 miliar dolar. Nah, video ini adalah rangkuman dari interview dengan Caltech bersama Charles Munger. Kau bisa tonton full video lengkapnya di YouTube channel Caltech di link di bawah ini ya. Newbie Investor juga akan sertakan di deskripsi. Kamu bisa nonton di situ nanti. Nah, kita udah buatkan subtitlenya, jadi di video ini sudah ada subtitle bahasa Indonesianya. Tapi harap dimaklumi kalau banyak penerjemahannya yang salah karena keterbatasan Newbie Investor dalam mentranslasi dari bahasa Inggris ke bahasa Indonesia. Nah, video ini apa aja sih yang kamu bisa pelajari? Akan banyak banget value-value dan pola pikir dari Charlie yang akan kita pelajari. Yang pertama, itu kegagalan investasi yang pertama kali Charlie lakukan. Kedua, pandangannya Charlie terhadap COVID. Dan yang ketiga, perlu nggak sih kita memprediksi makro ekonomi atau perlu nggak sih analisa-analisa makro ekonomi? Yang keempat, bagaimana investasi saham 10 tahun ke depan? Apakah returnnya turun atau justru naik ya? Dan yang kelima, apa karakter seorang investor yang baik? Saran untuk investor pemula, dan yang terakhir, apa sih yang membuat Charlie penasaran 30-40 tahun ke depan? Tanpa berlama-lama lagi, yuk kita langsung masuk ke rangkuman dari interview bersama Charlie Munger.
My first investment with my pitiful savings of a venturesome sort, I invested in a company right in Pasadena, and it was called William Miller Instruments. And I damn near lost all my money. It was hell on earth. We just barely squeaked out with a substantial outcome. And what did us in is that the oscillograph that we'd invented and we were so proud of and we thought it was going to knock the world flat, somebody invented magnetic tape without telling me. And by the time we got that oscillograph ready to go to market, we sold three total in the whole world, whole country. So this technology is a killer as well as an opportunity. And my first experience, it damn near killed me. Over the long term, the companies of America behave more like biology than they do anything else. And biology, all the individuals die, and so do all the species. It's just a question of time. And that's pretty well what happens in the economy too. All the things that were really great when I were young have receded enormously. And new things have come up and some of them started to die. And that is what the long-term investment climate is. And it does make it very interesting. Look at what's died. All the department stores, all the newspapers, U.S. Steel, John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil is a pale shadow of his former self. You know, it's just like biology. So they have their little hour, they have their little time, and then they get clobbered.
So one has to accept limitations. Is that one of the really important pieces of avoiding these biases?
What I would say is the single most important thing, if you want to avoid a lot of stupid errors, is knowing where you're competent and where you aren't, knowing the edge of your own competency. And that's very hard to do because the human mind naturally tries to make you think you're way smarter than you are. Well, my opinion on that is no better than anybody else's. But I think it's quite likely that a year from now, the worst of that will be very, very thoroughly behind us. It's amazing. I watched the polio get totally killed by the vaccinations. And I think they'll spread these vaccines over the world so fast it'll make your head swim. So I think this horrible COVID thing is very likely to shrink to insignificance in the course of the next year. And I remember that I did not make my fortune, such as it is, by predicting macroeconomic changes better than other people. What Buffett and I did was we bought things that were promising, and then we just, sometimes we had a tailwind from the economy and sometimes we had a headwind. And either way, we just kept swimming. That's our system.
And so we can ask, what did you think about that? And then his second question is, did you ever make a bad business decision?
Well, the answer is, the second one is, of course, I've made bad business decisions. You can't live a successful life without doing some difficult things that go wrong. That's just the nature of the game. And you wouldn't be sufficiently courageous if you tried to avoid every single reverse.
Do you expect the next 10 years to have lower returns in the equity markets than the last 10? He doesn't give us an idea why.
The answer is yes.
And could you give us a hint as to why that might come to pass?
Yes, because so many people are in it, and the frenzy is so great, and the systems of management, the reward systems, are so foolish that I don't think it's going to work at all. I think the returns will go down, yes. In real terms, the returns will be lower.
Is the NASDAQ in a bubble?
Well, nobody knows when bubbles are going to blow up. I think great investors, to some extent, are like great chess players. They're almost born to be investors.
And that's because of the tolerance for risk? Is it the patience? What are the traits of a great investor?
Yeah, obviously, you have to know a lot. But partly it's temperament. Partly it's deferred gratification. You got to be willing to wait. And it's a weird, good investing requires a weird combination of patience and aggression. And not many people have it. It also it requires a big amount of self-awareness and how much you know and how much you don't know. You have to know the edge of your own competency. And a lot of brilliant people are no good at knowing the edge of their own competency. They think they're way smarter than they are. And of course, that's dangerous and causes trouble.
I'm 16. I want to take up investing as a full-time career. What is Mr. Munger's best advice for me?
Well, if you pursue any career with enough fanaticism, that's very likely to work better than not having the fanaticism. And so if you look at Warren Buffett, he had this fanatic interest in investments from an early age, and he kept making small investments even with his paper route savings and so forth. And he finally learned how to be pretty good at it. And so if you want to succeed in investments, start early and try hard and keep doing it. That's all success comes that way, but by and large.
Chris Tenberg asks, what are you most curious about in the next 30 to 40 years?
Well, having been an investor for so long, I'm, of course, interested in these weird present conditions and these weird economic conditions where they're printing money like crazy and so forth. And of course, that's very interesting. And I'm interested in the fact that the world has come so far in having these undeveloped countries get ahead so fast like China. Then I compare India, which has a way worse economic record, even though they got more of our political, they got more free speech in India, and a way worse economic achievement. I think the economic development of the modern world is very interesting. It's a very interesting subject. And I see why so many people in economics like it, because it is just so perplexing and so interesting. And of course, the achievements have been so great. And so I think a lot is, and the technology is the same way. who would guess that the whole world could have colloquia on Zoom? We weren't doing it a year and a half ago. I mean, it's just amazing what's happened.
Kurang lebih itu poin-poin terpenting dari interview Charlie Munger dengan Caltech. Newbie investor belajar banyak sudut pandang baru dari seorang Charlie dan perjalanan investasinya. Charlie ini juga banyak menjadi tempat bertukar pikiran Warren Buffett loh dalam menjalankan Berkshire Hathaway. Kalau kamu penasaran, sekali lagi kamu bisa tonton interview fullnya di deskripsi. Selain itu, kamu juga bisa baca buku biografi Charlie Munger dengan judul ini, Poor Charlie's Almanac. Semoga bermanfaat, dan like jika menyukai video ini, subscribe bila ingin mendapatkan konten serupa. Thank you and see you in the next video. Bye!